I'm with Luke Shepherd, the recruiter for ANZ at HubSpot. Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Luke. It's great to see you.
Great to connect. Likewise.
Great. Now, look, I know you guys have continued to hire throughout this period. How have you found hiring in the current climate?
I tell you what, Scott, it's been very interesting for a number of reasons. I think the elephant in the room is shifting everything from face to face, where you can pick up so many little nuances, both from candidate and also as a business around culture, which is one thing we really pride ourselves on, to everything on a platform that we're on this afternoon, Zoom. So as a business, we've relied heavily on Zoom across all functions. So the pivot's been a bit smoother and a bit easier, but I'd say it's definitely been a learning curve for candidates that really want to come in, want to experience everything that a business has to offer. So we're doing our best to accommodate that.
We're obviously going into a new way of how we work and therefore how we recruit. So, how do you think this will change the kinds of skills that you look for in your new hires?
I think I don't think it will change per se. I think it'll highlight, and if anything, in a positive way, expose the type of people that we're looking for. One thing that I really look for throughout our interview journey is this concept of resiliency and also flexibility. So, shifting from face to face to Zoom, with scheduling, I don't know what your calendars look like, but mine's been jumping around almost on a daily basis. So seeing candidates that are very agile and are open to pivoting very quickly really leaves a great impression. And then on the other end, if something like a scheduling of an interview has to change, really tilts a candidate, then the velocity of a business like HubSpot probably isn't a great place for them to begin with. I think looking at the future of how we hire, the processes will very much stay the same. Right now, we're doing everything over Zoom. As businesses return to work, we'll look at how we navigate that. But it might look like a balance. It might look like shifting everything back to face to face. I'm not quite sure. I think your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, who knows at this point, right? Um, and are there any ways you think will change the way that you scrutinize candidates in the future?
I don't think so. We very much have anchor points on key attributes that we source for at HubSpot, and it varies between roles. But I think whether we're doing that over the phone, over Zoom, or even face to face, those key attributes will very much stay the same. To give you some insight as to why that is the case, a lot of what we do, 95% or more, is over Zoom or the phone, even pre-pandemic. So that sort of skill set is very much similar to this new normal that we're in. If we're a business that had a lot of face-to-face closing, then we would have to obviously look at pivoting and realigning processes to suit the market.
How will businesses need to change to remain attractive to candidates in the future?
Yeah, I think businesses will need to, if they're not already, really hone in on what flexibility means, and also their work from home policy. I think you probably see this more than I do. It's very much a buzzword. Businesses will talk about a great culture, flexible working hours, without really any parameters for what it looks like. I think historically the biggest argument against working from home, or one of them, was this notion of not being as productive. But now we're seeing that people are able to either maintain performance or in some cases exceed performance. That argument's out the window. So we need to look at, as a business, how do we balance flexibility? I'm also, the other side of that coin is I'm a firm believer of culture and team building that can only be formed in a community. So, you know, uh, HubSpot as a business, we're always looking at it. And I think any business that wants to remain relevant in a candidate driven market has to be able to be flexible to different people's needs.
Given the current state of play, I wanted to find out more about HubSpot's view towards remote interviewing and onboarding. So, what's your approach to remote hiring?
Yeah, great question. Everything's done over Zoom, which through our interview process isn't a big shift. Once people sign on the dotted line and commit to joining HubSpot, at this stage, it is still looking like a remote onboarding. Traditionally, we'd send all our Sydney new hires to Singapore for a couple of weeks, put them up in a really nice hotel, and they get to experience in Singapore at our APAC headquarters everything that HubSpot has to offer. They go through our foundations course. They get to meet our APAC senior stakeholders and leaders, including our managing director. But now, given the travel bans, we've had to shift all of that remotely. So we're doing our best to accommodate multiple time zones and also create that experience as much as we can. So as a business, HubSpot's got a great reputation of being a great place to work. We're looking at creative ways on how we can not match, but keep that reputation throughout this remote onboarding.
Perfect. And I know that we've, touched on previously in the past amount of candidates that are currently out there on the market. So how are you managing the influx of applications for roles right now?
Yeah, sure. I think two ways. Managing expectations, number one. So we've got headcount that we've just filled. We've also got future headcount. So for someone that's looking to move immediately, say, for example, it's got in a headcount where we're not hiring until Q3, being very upfront and managing that expectations. Now, that may mean we miss out on that talent. And that's something that can be frustrating, but it's also the nature of any business that timing and this in recruitment, timing is a very big thing. The other play that we've got in place at the moment is almost not to have a play. So I've been inundated with people that are in the unfortunate situation that they've lost their role due to coronavirus. Their role might be made redundant, and their skill set or even what they're looking for might not be a good fit for HubSpot. So where I have been able to, I'm looking at businesses like yours as a recruitment agency that I can make a soft introduction to, or, any other of my human resource counterparts in other businesses, because we are dealing with humans. And I think that's really important to remember, especially in these testing times.
Yeah, well, any recommendations, feel free to send them our way. We'll be happy to help. And what do you think is the most important thing to get right when onboarding remotely?
I think remotely, face-to-face, any form of onboarding, the biggest thing to get right is having a reality that matches your expectations. So throughout the interview process, I'll use a sales term, we've sold a business model, a culture, an environment, almost an experience. Someone comes in on the first day and that experience will either be met, matched and exceeded, or disappointed. There's a bunch of research that says, people decide in the first 14 to 21 days if they're going to commit long-term to a business or not. So creating that expectation meet is really imperative, and it looks different in a remote setting.
Completely agree on that one. Now, is there any advice, if any, that you can give to job seekers right now?
I think don't waste a good crisis. It's something our CEO says, and I think I look at my time. Yes, I am still employed, but I've got an hour and a half each way of commuting that I will now have to either waste or invest in myself. Now, yes, I still binge Netflix. I'm not sure if you've checked out The Last Dance, but that's a phenomenal documentary about Michael Jordan. But I look at, if I come out of this pandemic with all the additional time that I've had, without a new skill set, I've wasted it. And for those in the unfortunate position, for those that are, in, say, a JobKeeper stand down, or those that might be thriving, take the additional time, take this pandemic as an opportunity to look at, what do you really want to do? Is there a skills shortage or upskill that you can enroll in? Immerse yourself in books and podcasts. Now's a great time to, when the market does pick back up, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I think we'll find that those that have maximized these moments will step to the top very quickly, and those that, for better use of terms, have plateaued might be out of a job or might be in that job they're not happy with a lot longer than they'd hoped.
Well, look, I'd just like to say thank you once again for your time today. You've been amazing. It's been a real pleasure learning about how you guys are approaching the current climate, and hopefully we'll be moving forward into better times soon. All the best.
All the best, and thanks so much for your time.